Hey, it's Nikki. Before we start the show, I wanted to invite you to download a free resource that I put together for you as the listener. This is my gift to you. You can get it right now. It is the 17 buying signals. Now, I wrote a whole book about buying signals, and I wanted to put it into a really simple format that you can have at your fingertips or in front of you whenever you want to. So I took out the 17 buying signals from the book, put them on a simple PDF, also gave you the kind of what to do when you get a buying signal, and explain what a buying signal is. So that PDF is available for you as a listener to go and download right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/17. That's yoursalesmaven.com/17 so that you can start acting on these buying signals and closing more business. All right, when you're ready, let's start the show.
Do sales conversations make you feel awkward or pushy? It's time to ditch the outdated salesy strategies. Your guide, Nikki will show you how to combine kindness with selling skills to meet your prospects where they are, and in the process, how to up-level your influence and income. Learn how to earn business easily and effortlessly. Here's Nikki.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Roush. I'm here to offer you tips, techniques, and strategies to master your sales conversation. Today is a solo episode. It's just me and you. And we're going to be talking about ways to improve your customer service. Now, the reason that I chose to share what I'm going to share with you today is because I am now starting to get out and about, like physically going to places, which hasn't happened in a long time, attending events, getting to interact with people, and starting to see some of the things that people are doing out in the marketplace that I think could possibly benefit from some improvements. So I want to share some of these things with you if you are also starting to get out and about, and if you're putting yourself in front of customers and clients, that you might be able to apply some of these things and take a step back. Make sure that you're thinking about them, because all of the things that I'm going to talk about today, I will say that I don't think the person who prompted, or the people, frankly, who prompted me to share some of the things that I'm going to talk about, I don't think they actually really thought what the experience was going to be like for the client, for the person sitting in the room, or for the person experiencing working with them. Not because they don't care, but because they just didn't think about it. So let's get into it. Before we get into it, I'm going to say thank you to those of you who are rating and reviewing the podcast and sharing the podcast. Again, nothing thrills me more than to know that you're getting takeaways from it, people who are reaching out and sharing that they're listening and how they're using it, how they're applying the stuff that I'm offering in the podcast, and then sharing it with other people. And then when I get to go and read the reviews that people are leaving for the podcast, I'm so thrilled. So thank you so, so much. I am eternally grateful. And if you haven't done that yet, and you do enjoy this podcast, this format, would you take a moment and do this? I would be so incredibly grateful to you for taking a moment to leave your own review for the podcast or share it with somebody who you know would benefit from listening. Okay, here we go. Here's the first thing I want to talk about. So I have had the honor now of being an audience, being, in attendance at live events as a participant, also as a speaker, but as a participant, being in the room. And here's something that I'm noticing that presenters are doing. And this isn't as big of a deal, I don't think, when you're presenting on Zoom or like remotely, but it definitely is a big deal when you're presenting in a room. And I don't think presenters are thinking about it. They're thinking about how their slides are going to show up for everybody in the room. So there's a couple things that I've noticed. People are using really dark backgrounds on their slides, and then they're using dark font. Almost impossible to see. Now, I want to give a disclaimer here. I have terrible eyesight. So I wear contacts always. And if I don't have my contacts in, I couldn't see anything. But even with my contacts in, I have just been really struggling to read the information that people are putting on their slides. They're using really small fonts, they're using dark backgrounds, and then they're using like black font. It makes no sense to me because especially when you're presenting to a room that has, 20 people in it or 40 people in it or 100 people in it, the people in the back of the room, and I rarely sit in the back of the room. I actually usually sit in the front of the room because I know my eyesight's not great. So I want to be able to read what's on the slides, and I can't read the slides. This happened multiple times over the last couple months where I found myself getting really irritated with the speaker because I was like, you didn't think at all about this. Now, there's a couple things that go into your slides that when you're presenting live, you should be taking into account. One is the equipment that you're going to be projecting onto. So this comes from my background in technology and selling projectors, flat panel plasmas, and all the things that have to do with presenting in the front of the room, microphones and all of that in my years as in the tech space. And not all projectors are created equal. And I find that most presenters don't know anything about projectors. I mean, why would you? I happen to because I sold them for many, many years. So I know a lot about them, but not all projectors are created equal. You never know the projector that you're going to go and use unless it's your own. Like, I don't know very many people who own their own projector. I have my own, but I rarely bring it now because I expect that it's provided when I always check, but it's usually provided by the hotel or wherever the event is or by the organizer of the event. And so you don't know how bright that projector is because, again, not all projectors are created equal. Some are brighter than others. Some use different technology. So there's different types of technology that's used. And you don't know, are you using a LCD projector or are you using a DLP projector? And if it's a DLP projector, the colors are not quite as bright. So all of these things go into this. And of course, the person you're asking, they're not going to know. If you ask them how many lumens a projector is, they probably wouldn't even know what you're talking about. And maybe you don't know what I'm talking about. That's okay. The point is, make your slides like super easy to read from the back of the room. That means using large fonts. That means using either, if you're going to use a dark background, use a light font, or, I'm not a color theory person by any stretch of the imagination, but make it so people can actually read it. Just because you can read it on your little tiny screen because you're sitting, a foot away from it or 2 feet away from it, depending on where your nose is in in your screen when you're creating these slides, doesn't mean that the people who are sitting, 100 feet back in the room are going to be able to see it. So the last thing you want to do is have people thinking more about the fact that you didn't put any thought into where they might be sitting and how your slides are going to show up for them and not paying attention to the content that you're presenting. You spend all this time putting together this great content and then you irritate the person sitting in the room. So let's improve this. These are like those simple little things. But again, I just don't think people think about them very much. Okay, so here's the next one. It has to do with asking people to fill out forms. And I see this a lot, especially when you're asking people to fill out forms and send them back to you or print them and bring them to an appointment with you. I find that the people who create these forms don't think about the fact that the person is either going to be writing information on the form or maybe typing it, although, sometimes they're writing it, and they just don't even leave enough room for you to actually, they have this tiny little space for you to write your phone number as if any of us can write in a 5 font. And I'm not somebody who writes big loopy, letters and numbers, but if they can't fill out the form and they can't put their full email address or their full phone number, or if you're asking them to put a credit card on the form and there isn't enough space for them to put their full credit card number, or if you're having a workbook and you don't have enough space for them to write the word, like, I do this in my workbooks. I have a lot of blank spaces because I want people to fill it in because it's super good for the kinesthetic people in the room. They like to write in the answer. So are you leaving enough space? Because it's very, very frustrating to the customer, to the client, when they're like, I can't write this small, and now there's just not enough room. And I find that a lot of times people that are creating these forms, they're like, oh, I just want to make it a 1-page form. So I'm going to squish everything and make it so small. And again, that's thinking about you, because maybe you don't want to pay to print it, or you think it looks better if it's all on one form. I don't know, but give it some breathing room, give it some white space, give it plenty of, space for somebody to fill in an answer. If you're not giving them enough space to fill in the answer, you're probably annoying them. Knock it off. Be thoughtful about these things, because they really do matter in the experience of the client. I recently was going to work with somebody, and she had asked me to fill out these forms, and her spaces for the form were so small. And so I will say that I went to the appointment feeling kind of annoyed already. Like, we hadn't even met yet. I'd booked an appointment with her, and I was already feeling a little bit like she's not very thoughtful. Like, I was kind of indignant a little bit. And that's not a great way to start a relationship, because you're kind of starting on the back foot, and you don't want to do that. So think about your forms. Okay, and the last one I want to share, and then we'll wrap up this episode, is, are you asking clients to fill out questionnaires? And if so, are you actually reading the answers to that questionnaire? And are you using them in some way? Because if you are asking people to fill out a questionnaire and you've just copied somebody else's questionnaire, and you haven't really put any time or thought into the fact that you're asking them to fill out this form, you're asking for them to give you information, but you're not actually doing anything with the information, that is a waste of that person's time. And frankly, again, it just starts to diminish the rapport that you have at the start of a relationship with somebody. So I see this in a couple ways where people will ask me to fill out a form. I see this a lot, by the way. I don't fill out a lot of these forms yet anymore because I have somebody who books me on podcasts and they fill out the forms. I find them super annoying that a lot of these people, when to go onto their podcast, they want you to fill out these forms, and they ask you all kinds of information that takes a long time to answer, that they never ever reference or use to make a decision, or they never bring it up in the podcast. And it's like, why are you asking that? I guess if you're just maybe for the podcast, they're wanting people to jump through hoops, because most people won't jump through hoops. So they think they're going to cut down on the amount of people filling out their form. I don't know. But if you're asking somebody to fill out a questionnaire for you, please be using that information in some way, and show some respect to the other person and reference that you've read it, acknowledge it in some way. The other thing that I find when people ask you to fill out questionnaires is they'll ask you to fill out the questionnaire, and then they'll ask you the exact same question once you get into a live conversation with them. Oh, that sends me into a spiral of annoyance because I'm feeling like, did you read my answer? Because I took the time to answer it. You should at least show me some respect and acknowledge that you read the answer. And if you have a question about my answer, let's talk about that. But don't just ask me the same question. That drives me so crazy. So I want to share some of these things with you because I think, again, it's not that people are trying to be annoying. It's not that they're trying to have a bad customer experience. They're just not thinking about it. So make sure you're thinking about your client's experience. Your customer service aspect of your business. It's so important. It sets you and the client up for success. It creates safety between you and the client when they feel like you're paying attention, you're being thoughtful for my experience. And now I can feel safe with you. I can be more revealing. I'll be more open to hearing your message. I'll be more open to sharing how to earn my business. Like all these things really matter in the customer experience. And they make the sales process so much easier. And the best business to earn is repeat business. So if your customers are not having a great experience with you because you're not being thoughtful in the things that you're asking them to do, if there's any hoop jumping, you got to get rid of it. You'll slow down the process. You'll cause people to go away. It's just not worth it. So I hope that I said something today that might spark you to go look at something that you're asking clients to do in some way and ask, how can I make this easier? How can I make this better? And by the way, if you're one of my clients and you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, Nikki, you do this or you do that, and I find it annoying, please let me know. Help me to help you make the client experience better, right? I would love to hear that. And you might want to ask your clients too, how can I make this experience better for you? Was there any part of this experience that wasn't seamless, that wasn't easy? See what they say. All right. So as we wrap up today, you might know that 2022 is the year of connection for me. So I've been sharing some of my favorite connections because I think we all want to grow and build strong networks with amazing people. So today I want to do a shout out to my friend, Amy Lang of Birds and Bees and Kids. Now, Amy is an amazing person. I've known her for many years. She is in the Sales Maven Society. She is somebody I have masterminded with. She's somebody who I have got to attend live conferences with. And she's a smart, savvy woman. And the business that she has built is incredible because it's for parents. And her mission is to help every kid grow up to be a whole and healthy adult by teaching the grown-ups who love and care for them how to openly and confidently talk about sexuality. How amazing is that? Now, Amy just wrote a new book, and it's called Sex Talk with Tweens. Sex Talks with Tweens. Yeah, I said that right. What to say and how to say it. She gives scripts in there for parents and for people who are interacting with tweens that need some support around this. You just can't find a better resource than Amy Lang. So you can get this book wherever books are sold. And the best way to connect with Amy is to check out her website, birdsandbeesandkids.com. She also has a podcast where people call in and ask her questions, and then she answers the questions on air. So you can also check out her podcast as well. So yeah, shout out for Amy Lang. If you're a parent and you need some help around how to have these talks with your kids, the Birds and Bees talks, there's a great resource for you. All right. And last, if you haven't joined the Sales Maven Society yet, what's stopping you? I would love to hear. Would you be willing to share? It's so interesting to me how many times people will say, I've been thinking about it for a really long time, and then they'll join. So I'm always wondering, what's the thing that you're having to think about for a really long time? I would love to have you come join us in there. There's a lot of good stuff happening. It's filled with amazing people. There's training. This is a coaching program, a group coaching program. I do 2 coaching calls a month with the group. They get access to my training center. So this is an opportunity for you to really hone your selling skills. If you're somebody who thinks, you're either good at sales or not, you're either born with it or you're not, and I wasn't born with it, then this is definitely the place for you, because you will find it's not about your personality style. It's about having some structure to the way that you show up in your conversations, and sales gets so much easier. So come hang out with us. You can join by going to salesmavensociety.com. And if you use the coupon code that I'm going to give you now, it'll take $100 off your first month of the group coaching program. So the coupon code is 47 trial. So the number 4 and the number 7 and trial. Come hang out with us. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.